As a company, RealityWorks is a company that really focuses on innovative learning tools for skills training. And so we have products every place from family consumer science to health science, agriculture, and then also in the world of trades and welding. We are really excited to talk today about how you can bring this world into farm, school to farm, and so and farm to school. So in this case, some of the things that we really hear from our customer base and just from teachers in general as we travel around are this interest in being able to have sustainability, bringing new engagement to their schools, and then really this kind of wave of farm to school is a trend right now. It's something that is coming more and more readily available. It's more and more interesting, and there's certain reasons for that. So some of those reasons, and we'll talk about that, is important. But before we get there, have a little bit of today's agenda, which is we're going to be talking about some benefits of farm to school programs. We'll then talk about how hydroponics fits well, including with STEM, and then highlighting successful incorporation of a farm to school program, and then tips on how you might start a program, as well as showcasing our hydroponic system, and then do some testimonials. So one of the things that we really have seen is this idea of bridging the gap, allowing students to come and get more of an understanding of where their food's coming from, what's happening, how is it growing, what is actually happening in that. And a lot of times it comes from this idea of, well, farming, that's the farming world, that's that world's community, but it really is connecting both the farm kid and the non-farm kid. It's connecting everyone to, hey, we all eat, we all have to, have health in our lives, and so what do we do in that world there? So just to kind of show where we come from as a company, is we came about this by asking that question, asking our agriculture teachers, asking our culinary teachers, asking our consumer science teachers, and saying, what interest do you have in this world? And really they came back with an overwhelming yes. Over 70% of those asked really said, yes, we want something that can help us grow and bring that into our classroom, bring growth into our world there. So some of the trends that we're seeing really is this idea of learning. There is a connection to STEM, and Emily will kind of talk about that, and you'll see that as we talk today. There's also this health movement of knowing where your food's coming from. Environmental factors. There's no off season when you're talking about when you have to eat and what you're doing. And so when you talk about how are you growing to be able to have that ability to always have food there. And then also local foods, from fresh foods, local business growth, and then this kind of push for this fork to farm of the nutrition and going through there. Some of that is also important there. So want to start with a profile on a teacher. So I'm going to hand it over to Emily to kind of talk about that one.
Well, thanks, Jamie. So one of the stories that we discovered when we were doing some of the market research that Jamie alluded to earlier was a program out of Western Wisconsin at New Richmond High School. This picture that you see on your screen here is of Rachel Savala and a few of her agriculture students. She is a 2014 National Association of Agriculture Educators Teacher of the Year Award recipient, and she leads a nationally recognized agriculture program. And it's nationally recognized because she is highly committed to finding unique ways to engage her students in agriculture, in farm to school concepts, in healthy eating, and other related topics. It's clear after this photo that you see on your screen is from a 2018 profile of her school in the National FFA's New Horizons publication, where they outline a few of the stellar, unique things that she's doing to engage her students. And if you read the article, if you speak to her for only 10 minutes or so, it is very obvious that she is not afraid to go after what her students want, and that she is dedicated to finding unique ways to engage them. She wants to get her students fired up about what she's teaching. And over the years, she's incorporated a plethora of creative programming ideas to achieve that goal. And some of those we're going to show for you here. For instance, she coordinated with a local biologist who actually came into her program, visited her classroom a few times, and helped her students grow over 40,000 native prairie plants, which they then worked with that same biologist to plant and return into local prairie beds. She also worked to purchase an old residential home from the city of New Richmond, where she worked to establish a 20-acre Student Opportunities with Agriculture Resources, or SOAR, educational center. And that's what the picture you see on your screen now. And at this center, the students work hard to offer a variety of hands-on learning opportunities in all aspects of farming and food production. And she also established a very successful farm-to-school program that utilizes food grown by her students at the SOAR Center and in the school's greenhouse, mainly greens, fish, and beef, that they then actually contribute to their school's lunch program on a daily basis. So students at the school are eating food in part grown by their peers. So why that interest in farm to school in particular? When we talked to Rachel, and when we asked her why she considered a farm to school program, she named a plethora of the reasons that I think those of you listening now would find important as well. There's obviously a plethora of benefits to programs like these, including the support of local farmers and ranchers, fishers, and all those food manufacturers locally. Of course, it supports healthy eating and healthy food. It also gives students ownership over what they're doing and what they're learning, and provides those stellar hands-on learning opportunities that today's students really need to be engaged and to connect with what they're learning. And what they're learning when it comes to farm to school can relate to agriculture, but it can also relate to family and consumer science topics like culinary arts and healthy eating. It can relate to business and marketing. As students market the food that they grow, they're learning those awesome principles as well. In other words, the concepts addressed in farm to school programs can really expand several career technical education pathways. And the key to all of that is, of course, that student engagement. No matter what pathway you're teaching, you want your students to be interested in the lessons you're addressing. You want them to explore career options and hopefully discover a career they're passionate about. And Rachel found, and what we found as we've researched this, is that farm to school programs are one way to do that. So one unique thing about Rachel is that she has been teaching at New Richmond High School for almost 20 years. So she's worked really hard over the years to earn the support of her community, her administrators, and her students. And consequently, she's a great source of information for teachers looking to implement farm to school programs and other creative programming ideas, ways to engage their students. She shared some core tips with us that you can take and apply to any program you're looking to develop, whether it's a farm to school program or something else entirely. And we'd like to take a few minutes to share those tips with you now. So the first thing she said, of course, is the number one step you want to take is get the backing of your administration, but be stubborn about it, according to Rachel. And according to her CTE administrator, who we talked to at length, said she was a bulldog when it came to asking for what she wants. Share your ideas, be prepared to answer questions about money, do your research, and be able to say you've got leads on grants and leads on this funding source and that funding source, but also don't give up. If the initial idea gets denied, don't hesitate to reconsider it from another point of view. Persistency is what has helped her establish this stellar program over the years, because she's willing to go back and ask again. Another tip that Rachel has shared with us is to always have a 5-year plan and a list of things you want and need. And she provided several examples of how that tactic has benefited her over the years. One major one was that about a decade into her teaching career at New Richmond High School, the city passed a $93 million land and building referendum that resulted in, among a bunch of other things, a new high school. And Rachel was asked at that point, how would you like to expand your program? What changes would you like to make? Well, she quite literally reached into a folder and pulled out a list that she had already created and been updating over the years as she talked to students and learned what her students wanted and needed and would have liked to explore had they had the facilities or the tools. And she was able to turn into her administrators within a very quick amount of time the data and research and funding information that backed up her desire for a bigger greenhouse, for fish tanks, for aquaponics tools. All things that she had learned over the years that her students would like to explore if they had the tools again, that there was interest in, that there were interest in, especially from students who maybe weren't already in her ag classes, but might register for them if that particular kind of course was able to be offered. Another tip that Rachel has provided us, Jamie's getting a little ahead of me here, was giving her students ownership. Now, one impression you might be getting as we talk about this particular Western Wisconsin program is that it is a big one, and there's a lot going on. And as such, Rachel's weeks are very full. But one thing she does is regularly enlists her students to help, mostly juniors and seniors. She's had leaders in the high school, but she enlists them to not only further explore the topic she's teaching in her classroom, but develop some really valuable soft skills. For instance, grant writing. Of course, a lot of the things that she does requires money to achieve. Well, she enlists a team of students to help her with that grant writing. She has a core group of students who are getting some very valuable hands-on experience doing the research, doing the writing, the follow through, even the writing of thank you notes from donations and funds that they are able to secure to get funding for her program. But then at the same time, they're able to see the benefits of their labor. They can see the immediate impact on the job that they're doing and their work that they're putting into it. She also lets students run with their own project ideas. And in fact, the idea for the SOAR Center that she developed, that 20-acre establishment that was developed on a former residential house in the city of New Richmond, was the idea of one of her former students. According to Rachel, she had originally talked about only building a small farm, and one of her senior students, as his senior project, decided to come up with the specs and the requirements for the entire center, which he then, with a little bit of help from Rachel, pitched to the school board and won their approval for. Rachel also conducts a greenhouse management course where, for extra credit, she actually turns over the greenhouse, which you see pictured on your screen, to a team of students who, for extra credit, are completely in charge for that semester or year, whatever their hours require them, as far as maintenance and care and tracking product and tracking plants that are coming in and out, and really doing what actually is required to keep the greenhouse running. And again, can't emphasize this enough, every single opportunity those students have to dig a little deeper into what they're learning and the projects that they're in charge of allows them to become a little more engaged, take a little more ownership in what they're doing, and learn those valuable soft skills as well as the core ag skills that Rachel's already teaching. Last tip that we want to share from Rachel as far as implementing a farm to school program or any other creative programming idea that you have is get that community buy-in. One big takeaway that I learned from Rachel after speaking with her about her program is that she never misses an opportunity to remind her students' parents, the staff at the school, and the community that, in the case of the Farm to School program, that the food they're eating is the students' hard work, that it's good food, that it's from local farms, etc. She promotes the lessons her students are learning, from food production to the business principles of sales and marketing, at every possible opportunity. She's on social media. She's constantly submitting articles for the school newspaper, for the school's website, for local news media. No moment, according to Rachel, is too small to report, even if it's just that students contributed a single pallet of microgreens in a given week. And of course, that buy-in in turn motivates her students to continue working hard because they know they have customers and they know their hard work is being appreciated. Now, these tips, of course, are very agriculture program focused, but whether you teach ag or family and consumer science or a different course, you can apply these tips that you see on your screen here to any big program that you're looking to implement.
So with all that said, and you said over a 20-year span that she has done that, it's one of those things too where we really hope that people who are listening to this kind of thing too, is it's kind of that question of, that might be overwhelming for some, but it's kind of like that quote of how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And so it may be something where you can't do everything that Rachel's doing, but you take a little bit at a time, and then all of a sudden you are surprised with what you can see and what you can do in that world. So part of that too is then the question of how we are looking at this is also what can we do to help as a company within this world of really the farm to school look here. So one of the things that we have is we have brought out 2 different hydroponic systems, allowing you to grow right in your classroom, right in your greenhouse, right in your hallways, any place in your school that you can plug this machine in. You can actually grow lettuce, microgreens. You can grow a lot of different types of produce in these systems. So our first one here is the plant producer hydroponic system. And this is a shelf unit. It allows you to have 42 plants on it, and it gives all the different features that you need in the sense of lighting. It has fans for air movement. It then has water levels sensors, so you know that it's getting enough water. And then it has a tank allowing you to put nutrients in that and feed all the different levels at the same time, as well as curriculum that helps you understand what hydroponics is and how to actually grow in a hydroponic system. Now, in this case, the plant producer also is automated. So you have the ability to put in your time, your temperatures, your different features there as well, and be able to monitor your water levels, things of that nature. We also have a plant lab hydroponic system. Now, the plant lab one's a little different. It's a little smaller unit. It still is the 3-shelf unit, except for instead of the 42 plant sites, it has 33. So a little bit smaller unit. And the difference here is that each shelf has its own tank. And so when we call this the plant lab, it's really that experimentation opportunity for your students. You can grow all the same products, or you can have different types of produce growing on each level. So you can have it all the same, or you can do experiments with different types of nutrients, different types of plants as well, to see what is it that is growing best and how to do that. So these are two different types of products that are kind of push into this marketplace to help teachers, help students be able to grow these types of things that you can then use in the classroom. You can then sell to your cafeteria. You can use within your school. You can have students be able to grow and understand that ability of, okay, where is it coming from? How much can we make of this? What are we doing? Is it, what kind of different types of if it's fertilizers or things that we're using, so you have a better understanding of what you're doing before you actually go and harvest your plants. So with that said, these two different products can help in your classroom and help within the kind of the farm to school movement. And Emily has a few more kind of stories from and testimonials from beta users using these products and kind of how they see it fitting in their school.
Right, thanks, Jamie. So these are products that would be really a great starting point, even if you're interested in incorporating a farm to school program into your school, because they're a great way to easily get started growing something. Like in the case of Brett Nelson, who a picture of his students is actually right there on the screen in front of you. Brett Nelson is an agriculture teacher from Illinois. He's an FFA advisor at a high school there, and they use the plant producer hydroponic system in his classroom. And he's incorporated it into a plethora of the ag courses that he teaches, from freshman students all the way to senior students. For instance, he uses it to demonstrate those plant science concepts that Jamie just referenced. He uses it to help his students compare conventional farming methods versus modern farming methods like hydroponics. He uses it to demonstrate the importance of producing more with less, which is, of course, a valuable concept these days, and to address some of those business and marketing principles that we said Rachel likes to address as well. How to market and sell produce to support, in this case, contemplating supporting selling produce to support his school's local FFA chapter. Nelson has collaborated with his high school's food service employees to contribute food that they've grown with their hydroponics unit to the school lunch program on a far smaller scale than Rachel, of course, but still the lettuce that you see on the screen in front of you, that's their very first harvest that they were able to produce about a month after getting the unit set up. And they did contribute that to their school's food lunch program, which supplemented the greens and the lunches for about a week. Now, Brent tells us that he loves using his hydroponics unit to emphasize technology, emphasize those modern farming concepts with the system, especially to younger students who may not have ever been exposed to agriculture before, or they have a set idea in mind as to what agriculture is all about. And he's able to use the system to see, hey, this technology is pretty cool, and you can help food producers accomplish a great deal of things. So this is one opportunity to use a hydroponic system to really address a variety of concepts with one tool in a unique, engaging, hands-on way. Another customer that we spoke to recently was Jennifer Ebert. She is a FACS teacher from Louisiana, and she has our Plant Lab hydroponics educational system in her food science lab. She uses the system with her food science students to emphasize the importance of healthy food. In fact, she told us that until they grew a variety of mixed greens in her hydroponics unit, she had one student who didn't even realize that lettuce came in different colors until they saw what was being grown with her hydroponic system. The picture on the screen in front of you is a few of her students getting ready to incorporate the greens that they grew with their hydroponic system into healthy green smoothies. chooses that to address how you can make salads. They address topics like garnishing and things like that in her food science lab, all of which she's excited to be able to add in that component of food that hasn't been produced at the grocery store, but that her students actually are able to grow themselves and then use to prepare it, to cook it, to eat it, and so on. She's also been able to, she has said, address topics like access to healthy food. For instance, if you live in a city, if you live in a house with no yard, you don't have any soil to grow healthy food, are you able to do so? Well, you absolutely are with a hydroponic system. Eventually, Ebert tells us that she sees her students using the system to grow a variety of lettuce that they've researched themselves and practice some more complicated scratch cooking skills that they'll need for her advanced food science class. And she really hopes to turn that system into an autonomous project, one that her students can take on from start to finish, develop some of that ownership in what they're learning that we talked about earlier, growing them food themselves, creating their own recipes, and of course, learning a variety of important life lessons in the process.
Well, thank you very much for those kind of different scenarios that you can really kind of start thinking about and getting yourself into this mode of, okay, how do we bring the farm to the school? How do we bring that into our world? One way is through hydroponics. There are other ways and there are different things, but it is one of those things where it is trending more and more towards getting students to have that hands-on learning and understanding of what is the proper type of ways to grow your food. What are things that you can do to learn how to try and kind of broaden your horizons of different foods you can eat, and then also really get that understanding of, okay, what does this do in the business sense, or what kind of careers that you could be going into? What are different things that maybe some students never even thought of before, and now it's kind of a new horizon for them, opening their eyes to new products and new things. So we want to open up, we have a few minutes left, to any questions that you might have. So if you do have any questions, just write them down in the chat area, and we will answer any questions that you may have. So I see one question here that we have, and really what they're asking for is with the with Rachel, so coming at you, Emily, here, with Rachel, one of the things that you talked about is just over that 20-year span and kind of moving into all the different projects that she had going on with her students. What is it that really kind of in this world of how did she feel that her empowering her students, what was their reaction to being able to get encouragement and being able to kind of be in charge in some of those cases? Did she talk about that at all?
She referenced several times how surprised she was by the enthusiasm her students demonstrated once they realized that they were in charge of their learning in that case. The student agriculture really promotes what the student-guided learning projects, SAE projects. I'm not getting that phrasing right, but that's a big component of agriculture, and she's really embraced that concept and ran with it, from using aquaponics or hydroponics or managing their greenhouse to develop food to developing projects like the Source Center. Every time she hands over a thing to her students and lets them know you're in charge of this, I mean, there's accountability and grading and things like that to keep them, to maintain some semblance of control. They're not just completely running with it, but they're excited and they are more engaged in what they're learning.
And that's a very interesting part of it too, because one of the things I would say that you see with her and with hydroponics, a great example, is it allows students to fail sometimes. And in that world of failure, which we don't always want to have our students fail, but it is a pretty clear failure if you are growing a plant and it is wilting and it is dead, that you did something wrong, all right? And that's not always a bad thing. That is sometimes our biggest failures, is where we learn the most and then we try again and try again. And having those kind of, if it's hydroponic systems or different growing methodologies in your classroom, it allows you to fail and then figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? How do I do it better next time? So
that's when that STEM concept comes in too, isn't it? The trying and the failing,
that is,
and the analyzing and hypothesizing. What did you do? What can can we tweak and change and do differently? The pH, the nutrients, the water level, all of that.
Exactly. You're hitting your science, you're hitting your technology, your engineering of, hey, I did this one way, I need to do it another way now. And then even your math, okay, well, how long is it going to be to grow this? How much can I grow? All those kind of things come into that world as well. So another question, and I don't have it here, but or from somebody out in the audience here, but a question that I have heard or asked too is what is the take from the community? How do you interact with the community? What is something that maybe is a takeaway? And I know you've talked to some of the testimonials of, getting them kind of their students involved, but how do you also bring that community in to, any ideas of maybe you might bring the community in to see what you're doing in your classroom and those kind of things?
Well, that's funny. We spoke to one hydroponics customer who actually keeps his, I believe he's got the lab as well, and he keeps his unit in the hallway outside of his classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, he sent us a picture. It's right inside the entrance to the school. So anyone who comes and goes sees this awesome piece of technology with greens growing in it, and they immediately, he says that he's getting knocks on his door all day long every day. People coming in, poking their heads in. What are you doing? What are the students doing? What are they learning? And every time someone sticks their head in, that's an opportunity for him to do what Rachel recommends, right? To promote your program, to spread the word, to generate attention as far as the concepts that you're teaching.
What a great way to get both community and students excited or interested in maybe, getting your class sizes bigger and having them kind of see like, hey, whatever's happening here, this is interesting. I want to try it. I want to go see it. So what a great promotion, like you said, for your classroom and for what your students are doing. So that's a great piece. And those are the kind of things that we hope to help out with our hydroponic systems, with giving some tips that you, the teachers, are doing in your classroom and helping with. So we really hope that today this has been helpful to you, and we thank you for taking the time today with us, and hope that if you have more questions, you can always contact us at realityworks.com. You can go online and see our products. You can interact with us as needed. If you have questions, we always want to be helpful with what we can do to support you in the classroom. So thank you for this time, and we hope you have a great day.